Hello book lovers, and welcome back or welcome to Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe. Today I'm here to go through my June TBR. Alright guys, so I am really excited for this TBR. I just wanted to say I will not be using my TBR game this month, but she will be back next month, and we have a lot of great books that I will be mood reading this month. I have been feeling the urge to do a little bit of mood reading lately, so I decided to go ahead and put my TBR game aside for this month. I love my TBR game, but I do think maybe like 2-3 times a year or something, we just have to put her aside so that I can go ahead and read some of the books that I've been wanting to read but just haven't been able to put on my TBR because of my TBR game restrictions. And this is just one of those months. So this month, for the first half, I'm not taking part in any readathons. There is a readathon called Wonderthon happening on the 15th through the 30th, and I will be taking a part in that, and I am going to go ahead and put the announcement video down below. But the prompts are relatively open, so I'm not selecting any specific books for it. I will just choose from what books I have left over in the second half of the month to apply to those prompts as they come. But this is my second year taking part in this readathon. It's a lot of fun, so you should definitely go ahead and check it out. That being said, this month I'm allowing myself to pick from my summer TBR and my 5-star predictions, so I will link those videos down below. I won't be mentioning those books in this video because I don't want to be repetitive. And in this video I will be talking about the additional 19 books that I will be kind of picking and choosing from throughout the month. So I have 4 manga here. Well, technically I only have 3 because one is still on hold, but I have 4 manga that I'm hoping to read this month. I also then selected 5 physical books, 5 Kindle/KU books, and 5 audio books that I want to prioritize this month. So lots of great books to get through today. I'm really excited about all of them, and I will go ahead and start with the manga, and then we'll go through the physical books, Kindle books, and finish up with the audiobooks. And then of course we can't forget the Demon Cup. We still gotta select a challenge book for this month as well, and that could of course throw a wrench into things. I will be honest, I have not started the book that I pulled for May, so we are once again behind, as we always are with this challenge. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the actual TBR because we have a lot of books to talk about today. So this video, we don't want it to get too long. All right, so first up, I would like to complete the Perfect World manga series by reading volume 11 and 12. As far as I know, this completes the series. This is by Ryoruga, and I have not had the greatest time with this series, which is why the last time I picked it up was back in February, and I just I've been putting off completing it. I do think that these last couple of volumes have the potential to be better than the rest of the series because, as you can kind of see, our couple is together now, and they actually weren't for a big part of this series. I went into this thinking it's a romance. I would say it's more of a slice of life where we are following a young woman who runs into a old friend or an old crush from high school, and he has been in an accident that has caused a spinal cord injury, and he now uses a wheelchair full time, and they strike up a relationship. It is very clear that this author really wanted to talk about the experience of someone with this type of disability and was using this relationship kind of as a platform to do so. And so I would definitely say that if you're looking for a book that has good disability representation, definitely check this out. But if you're looking for like a romance manga, then maybe not this one. But I am looking forward to completing this series. It definitely should have been completed in like March, but better late than never. Once I finish that manga, I will be jumping into my next manga series, and that is going to be Tokyo Ghoul. And that is by Sue Ishida, and this is volume 2. Like I said, one of the manga I have is still on hold, and that is the first volume of Tokyo Ghoul. I am first in line and not planning on reading these until Wonderthon, so not until the second half of the month, so I will definitely have it by then. This is a manga that I have actually watched the first season of the anime. I never completed the anime, so I don't know how the series ends or anything, but I really had a good time with it, so I am hoping to enjoy this manga as well. I believe it only has, what, 14 volumes or something, and I do like to select manga that don't go on forever and ever, just because, you know, eventually it gets a little bit overwhelming. And in this story, we are following a young man. One day he goes on a date with a really beautiful woman, and then she tries to eat him because she is a ghoul, and ghouls are creatures that appear human, but they can only consume human flesh. Like, they literally would throw up if they ate any other food because it's so disgusting to them. However, when she is trying to kill him, she ends up being like crushed by a bridge or something, and they go to the hospital because he's been injured as well, and the doctors see that she's dead and that he has a lot of organ damage and decide to transplant some of her organs into him, therefore turning him into a ghoul as well. And he starts kind of joining this group of people, learning about being a ghoul and all the drama and fighting and all that jazz that comes with it. So I am really excited. This seems to be a relatively well-received manga, so I am definitely excited to jump on the bandwagon. All right, moving into the 5 physical books that I have selected. The first 2 are from the library. The first being Children of Fallen Gods by Carissa Broadbent. I read Daughter of No Worlds a couple months ago now. I read it for a vlog where I was reading other YouTubers' favorite books of 2023, and I gave the book 4 stars at the time. I will say the story started off a lot stronger for me, where I thought it could potentially be a 5-star read, and then the second half kind of like, I didn't like it as much, but still enjoyed it enough where I definitely would like to continue with the series. And considering it's a slightly higher fantasy despite having a romance subplot to it, I did want to go ahead and read it sooner rather than later because I already felt like I was starting to forget a little bit of the details. So in the story, we are following Tasana, and she was a slave for a big part of her life. She was taken from her village and became the property of a very powerful man who had offered her freedom in exchange for 1,000 gold pieces. And after years of working, she presents him with those 1,000 pieces, and he gets very angry and tries to kill her. And she, in turn, out of protection for herself, kills him and escapes to a place called the Order, where there are people who have magical abilities. She actually has some magical abilities herself, but she's only half. I always forget the name of what these people are, but she's only half normal human, half magical being. And she is looking to train her abilities and convince them to send a small army to her previous kingdom so that she could save the other slaves that she left behind. This order tells her that she does need to go ahead and do some training with a man named Max, who is still reluctantly tied to the order despite being betrayed by them. And he's very reluctant to train her until he figures out her cause and then jumps on board to help her with that. The story, like I said, has a romance subplot to it. However, I would definitely say it is more fantasy forward, which is something I personally prefer in my fantasy romances. It is a slow burn kind of friends to lovers situation. I will say for me, the romance was the weakest part of the story, just because I had kind of wished that the romance didn't come to fruition in the first book. I wanted it to be even slower paced, but as far as what is happening politically, it has been incredibly interesting, and we are definitely heading headfirst into some war, and I'm really interested to see what happens in the story. This is slightly over 600 pages, so hopefully I can get to it this month, but it is definitely a chunk wonkier, more time-consuming read. Up next, we have a book that will go ahead and complete a duology, which is always exciting, and that is going to be Court of Wanderers by Erin Chapeko. And yes, I do own the first book, so you're probably like, why didn't you buy the second book? Well, I didn't feel like spending money on it because this book is $30. It is $30, and this book is surprisingly short. It is over 400 pages, but it's definitely shorter than the first book. And the first book I gave 4 stars. I was left a little bit disappointed by it, and for this book I haven't heard the greatest things, so I was like, before I spend $30 on it, let's check it out and see what I think about it. In the first book, we were following Remy, and he is a vampire hunter. He's a very powerful and accomplished vampire hunter. However, he is also somewhat ostracized by the other vampire hunters because there are rumors about the fact that he himself might be half vampire because his mother, while pregnant with him, was bitten by a vampiric lover. And one day a murder occurs, and on top of that, the vampires are starting to act a little bit wonky, and it seems like there is some sort of mutation that is going on, and this mutation and this murder may be connected. So Remy teams up with a royal vampiric couple. Zayden, I want to say was his name, or was it Zane? It might be Zane and Song, and the 3 of them set out to solve this mystery, and along the way they start to form a relationship between the 3 of them. I will say for me, the plot just needed to be fleshed out. There was a lot of aspects of the story that needed a bit more fleshing out, and how short the story is not making me optimistic that the author is going to give me what I need. However, I did enjoy the characters for the most part, especially Song. I really loved her a lot, so I am excited to get a bit more of her. Based off the title, I'm assuming we are going to be spending some time with Zane's court because there are different vampiric courts in this world, and his seems to be more of a nomadic court rather than a court that is kind of claiming land like the other courts are. So I am excited to learn a little bit more about his court since we spent a lot of time learning about Song's court in the first book. So I definitely think there's going to be some things in here that I like. Will it be enough for me to spend $30 on this book? I don't know. I really don't know. We will see. But I definitely want to go ahead and prioritize this book because it will, 1, allow me to decide if I want to purchase this book, and 2, will complete a series. Up next, we have a book that I've had on my shelf for quite a while, and I figure it is time to finally get to it. And that is going to be Hero by Perry Moore. This is a book that was introduced to me by TJ Klune. Honestly, he had mentioned this book at some point, stating that he really enjoyed it, and then I shortly after saw it at half price books. In fact, the sticker is still on there, and so I decided to snatch it up. As far as I know, I believe that this is a young adult story, and we seem to be following a young man who seems to be really good at basketball. However, he still really feels left out by his classmates, and this is because his father used to be one of the greatest heroes. However, one day his father got really hurt and became kind of a pariah, and kind of everyone turned their back on him because of how disfigured, I guess, he became, which is kind of like a crappy thing to do. And obviously his son is facing some of that backlash as well. And our character has discovered that he has superhero abilities as well. And the League, which was the league that had turned their back on his father, has offered him a position in their ranks. And he doesn't want to betray his father, especially since shortly after his father was hurt and the League turned their backs on him, his wife also disappeared. And so he doesn't want to make things more difficult for his father, but he also wants the opportunity to join this League and be a hero. And so he seems to do so. And there he joins a group of misfits, and they have to learn to work together. And it also seems like there are some conspiracies going on within the League that they need to figure out. So that sounds really interesting to me. This book is also supposed to be queer in some way, and we just seem to have a lot of unique characters that we are working with, a lot of characters that have a lot of things they need to work through. We love some character development. So I am hoping to get to this book this month for sure. And hopefully I like it as much as TJ Clone apparently did. All right, second to last of the physical books, we are going to have The Awakened Kingdom, which is the novella that is here at the back of this bind up. And this is a novella attached to the Inheritance trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I have read the main trilogy. I can't remember what I gave the first book, but I know I gave book 2 and 3 5 stars. So there are 2 novellas in this story. Only one of them is in this book, but I definitely want to go ahead and complete this series by reading those 2 novellas. I absolutely love N.K. Jemisin's writing, and this world is so interesting. I did not look into what this story is about since it's a novella. I figured I would go into it rather blind. I've actually always been going into her stories blind just because they're so complex and wonky, but I am really excited. In this world, the gods walk among mortals, and in fact some mortals have been holding some of the gods prisoners for generations. And I don't know if this novella is going to take place like a prequel, if it's going to be set in between one of the books, because each of these books has quite a few years in between them, if it's going to take place on the sidelines during an event that happened in one of the books, if it's going to happen after things that happened in the last book. Literally no idea, but I will definitely be trying to read it because these stories are so incredible. If you really enjoy books that have gods as characters in them, then you definitely need to check out this book. And the last book that is on my physical list, if you've been here for a while, you should not be surprised. We are going to be reading episode 8 of Criminal Intentions by Cole McCade, Collateral Damage. And these are a collection, I like to call them novellas because they're usually under 300 pages. This one is like just barely over 200 pages. In this book, we are following Sanjay and Malcolm, and they are both detectives for the Baltimore Police Department, specifically for homicide. And in each book, we are following a different crime, but on the side, we are also watching their relationship develop, and it is scrumptious. I love every moment of it. I absolutely adore Cole McCade's writing. We are approaching the end of the series. I believe there are only 11 books, and there has been this character from Sanjay's past that has been creeping closer and closer in every book, and I am really eager to see where we go with that and to watch our characters kind of deal with that situation and to find the happily ever after that they so rightly deserve. All right, guys, moving over because we are going to be starting with our Kindle books. I have 2 books that are off of my Kindle that I have purchased, and then I have 3 books that I would be reading once I get KU, because I am hoping to get that at some point this month. So the first one is a book that I should have read a while ago, fake fan right here, and that is The Sunshine Chord by Nora Sakovic. So this is a book that is part of the All for the Game series, which I believe she wrote maybe like 10 years ago, and she one day like earlier this year or late last year was kind of like, oh, I really feel like I need to talk about this character and give them a little bit more closure, so I'm gonna write a book for them. And everyone in the fandom was like, ugh. So we were all waiting very patiently for this book, and then it came out in April and I proceeded not to read it. So I will definitely be reading it this month. I really can't tell you too much about it because it could be spoilery for the conclusion of the core series, but essentially we are following a side character from that book that went to hell and back, essentially, and they have a lot of trauma that they need to work through, and that is what they are going to be doing in this story. So I am super excited. The All for the Game series is one of my all-time favorite series. I am so addicted to it. I think about those characters like every single day of my life. I'm slightly obsessed, to be honest. So I am excited to learn some more about this character and the people that he meets that help him heal. And I'm also excited to see if we see a little bit of our old characters a little bit and to see how they're doing. doing. This author has not written anything else as far as I know, like book-wise. I don't know if she's been doing fan fiction or what. So I'm like, have you been writing for the last 10 years? Like, I have no idea what the quality of this book is gonna be like. I am going in very blind. I've been avoiding spoilers like the plague, haven't been looking at fan art, haven't been looking at reviews. I don't care if they're spoiler-free reviews. I have not been looking. And I will say that when I talk about this book on my channel, I will probably just be like, oh, this is the rating I gave it and I had a good time. I probably will like literally not tell you anything. I am kind of thinking about doing a spoiler-filled video specifically for this book. So we'll see how I feel once I pick it up. The next Kindle book that I own and want to read is Outdrawn by Deanna Ray, and this is a sapphic contemporary romance that was honestly a cover buy because this cover is just so cute. I love it. And in this book, we seem to be following two women. I believe they've already graduated college because I want to say they were kind of like competing with each other a lot in college, and they are both comic creators, and they are both given the opportunity to work on this Black-owned comic that is supposed to just like make it big. This is going to be career changing for the both of them, and they have some complicated feelings about working with each other, but this is a great opportunity. They can't give it up, so they are going to go ahead and try and make it work, and eventually I'm assuming they kind of get it on together. So I'm really excited to check this out. I've been wanting to read it for a while, but I suck at reading my Kindle books so bad. So I'm really happy to get this book on this list. All right, moving into the 3KU books. This first author, I may say her last name wrong, so I apologize. And that is Love Sick Gods by Amanda Moyweisen. And I absolutely love this cover. I have never heard anyone talk about this book. I think I was kind of going through one of those Instagram posts where people like dump a bunch of books that you should read and they don't give like a lot of details about it, but that cover stood out to me, so I was like, what is that about? And we seem to be following some superheroes whose powers seem to be elemental based, like lightning, fire, ice, all that jazz. And I literally only read the first sentence of the synopsis, which said superheroes shouldn't act like they're villains and they shouldn't fall in love with them. And I was like, superhero falling in love with a villain? Don't mind if I do. So this book I've been wanting to get to for such a long time. I just hardly ever get KU, so I'm so slow about getting through my KU books. But this one is at the top of the list, and as you may notice, it is not the first superhero book that is on this list. I wonder why that could be. But I am super excited to read this. Have no idea what's going to be happening in it. We're going in blind, but that's okay. I mean, honestly, I think superhero falling in love with a villain is all we need to know, right? Up next, I will be reading Only for the Weak by Natasha Bishop. I have heard nothing but great things about this book, and honestly, I keep getting worried that it's going to be taken off KU. I would 100% spend money on this book if it were, but I would love to take advantage of it being on KU for now. This is a story about a woman who is going to her sister's wedding, and her sister is getting married to her ex. So it's messy, and while she's there, she makes a deal with one of the groomsmen that they're gonna hook up for the week and just have fun and relax. And obviously it seems like they may go beyond a week. From what I hear, this man is down bad for this girl. Like, I'm not even kidding. That's what they all say, that this guy would do anything. Like, he is the dream man. You are waiting your entire life for a man like this. And I'm like, I need to read this, okay? So I feel like June is a great time to read it. It seems like we are having a destination wedding, so it's giving kind of summer vibes. This cover is stunning, and it has become some of people's all-time favorite book. So my expectations are really high, but I am hoping that they are met. And the final book is a book that I actually just recently added to my TBR. It's probably one of the newer books, but I am just newly and freshly invested in this story, so I definitely want to get to it before I lose interest, because that happens all the time. And this is To Catch a Firefly by Emmy Sanders. And all I really know about this book is that it seems to be a friends to lovers situation, but one of those situations where one of the friends has been gone for a long time and is now returning to their hometown, and things just seem to be more intense between the two of them. It is a male-male romance, and we also are following a character who is neurodivergent and has select mutism. And that is one of the reasons that I was really drawn to this book, because I do enjoy reading books with autism representation in them. So this will be really interesting. I have a feeling it's just going to be really heartwarming and really sweet, and maybe even a little emotional, and the person that was recommending it had a really great time with it, so I am hoping that I do as well. All right guys, moving over to the final category, which is going to be the audiobooks. And the first of the 5 is You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Caitlin Byron, and this is a YA horror thriller. This is a category I always enjoy, especially as audiobooks. And in this book we are following a young woman and her girlfriend, and they have the opportunity to work at this, I don't know if it's like a camp, but essentially they get to act like characters from horror movies, and they get to kind of like scare the people that come and visit them. However, one day the actors start dying for real, and our character and her girlfriend need to find a way to survive. So that sounds really exciting and maybe a little bit creepy. So hopefully I get the opportunity to get to that. All right, up next we have a book that is actually already available to me on Libby, but I don't think I'll really get to it this month because I have a couple other books I need to get to. I'm always behind on my audiobooks, but that is How to Get the Girl by Anita Kelly. I have read a book by this author before and really enjoyed it, so I'm excited to check out some of her other work. This also seems to be a sapphic contemporary romance. It seems to be kind of revolving around basketball, which I'm a little nervous about because the way I literally don't care about basketball at all. It was one of the reasons that I was so bored while reading Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, to be honest. But in this book, we are following a woman who is the coach of a high school basketball team. And one of the girls who joins the team has a foster parent who used to be a very famous basketball player but was injured. And our character asks her to be the assistant coach for the year. And the two of them are working together and getting closer and closer. I absolutely loved Love and Other Disasters that I read by her, which was like a cooking competition with a non-binary character and a female character, and I thought it was just so sexy, so fun, and that is exactly what I'm hoping to get from this book again. Up next we have Chez Ne Lende by Darcy Little Badger. I did look up the proper pronunciation of that word because I was like, I feel like I'm going to say it wrong. So that is how you pronounce the title according to Darcy Little Badger. And this is an author that I have semi-enjoyed and really enjoyed. So this is a prequel to A Lot's Away, which is one of their more popular books. And that book I thought was a decent time. It didn't really blow my mind or anything, but I did love A Snake Falls to Earth. And so I definitely want to go ahead and check out some more of their work. Like I said, this is a prequel. I believe it's following A Lot's Away's grandmother, and her story was mentioned a couple times throughout A Lot's Away, and we will now be following her and her journey with the mammoths. I'm assuming there's mammoths involved because they're on the cover. I don't really know much else going into it. Sometimes I just like to go into books blind. It's fun that way. So I am excited to read some more by this author. I have really been slacking on my goal to read books by Indigenous authors this year, as in I haven't read any. So that needs to change immediately. And this is a newer release by an author I have enjoyed, so I definitely want to go ahead and get to it. And next we have a book I've been trying to get to for a while. In case you're wondering how long, 2 other books in the series have already come out since I put this book on my TBR. And that is going to be A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsk. And this is a queer historical fantasy. I think it might be slightly light on the fantasy, but essentially we are following a young man who thinks he has taken a position up in the government, but it turns out he actually was offered a position in some sort of magical organization, and he's like, what is this? I didn't know magic was real. And the guy that he gets partnered up with is very reluctant to work with him because obviously he has no experience with magic. However, the two start working together when it seems that some people are getting cursed by some evil magical being, and they need to work together to figure out what the heck is going on. And obviously they grow closer together while they do that. This is a book that I've heard good and mediocre things about, so I'm like, but I do really enjoy reading audiobooks for books that are set in a historical setting, especially one set in like England, just because I enjoy the accents that the audiobook narrators do. It just adds like an extra level of fun to the stories for me. All right, and the final audiobook is actually going to be a reread because I've been slacking on my rereads this year. I always try to reread at least 6 books, and I've read 1. So I decided that I would like to check out the Green Creek series as audiobooks because I've heard relatively good things about the audiobooks. I have read the series in its entirety, and it is by TJ Klune, the first one being Wolf Song, and that is the one that I am putting on this list. This is a series where we follow a werewolf family. In this first book, the main character is Ox, who is actually their neighbor who becomes the mate of their youngest son. And we kind of learn about some of the enemies that this family has to face. There's a lot of grief, there's a lot of found family, there's a lot of complex feelings and relationships. Each book in this series follows a different brother or family member of this pack, and each of them gets their own romance in that book, and all of them are queer. There are a few moments in this book that I relive from time to time just because they were so funny. But I also have to be honest, I don't foresee myself taking the time to reread this book or this series physically, so I figured audiobook was the way to go. So hopefully I enjoy it as much on reread as I did the first time around. All right, so we are moving on to the final part of this very long June TBR, and that is going to be my challenge cup. And if you don't know about that, I will go ahead and link that video up above so you can see all the books that I put in there and also have me explain why I was doing this to myself. But essentially last month I chose Don Quixote, and I haven't started this, and I don't know if I will get around to starting it this month. I had initially gone in optimistic that I would read 300 to 350 pages here in May. However, I was very slumpy at the beginning of the month, and everything has just kind of been pushed back a little farther than I wanted. So I do need to continue to, or not continue to make progress because I haven't even started. I need to start to make progress in this book. That doesn't mean that we, I know my cat is like, what is that noise? Sorry, it's my rings. We need to go ahead and continue, move forward, and choose a new book. The good thing is most of the long books are gone. The 2 longest have been selected. But there's still some chonkers in there. So let's go with this one. I have a couple books in here that I know are queer for a fact, and it would be awesome if I selected those, but we're not going to. I feel like that's upside down. What is that? What does that say? Oh, it's one of the queer books. Look at that. The Demon Cop felt so bad for being mean to me last month. So this is How You Lose the Time War. All right, so this book is by Amal L. Motar and Max Gladstone, and it is a very well-known book. A lot of people really seem to enjoy it. It seems to be sapphic and also very, very confusing. So I will have to go ahead and see if my library has a physical copy for me to get my hands on. In this book, we seem to be following red and blue, and they are from opposing sides of societies that are using time travel to kind of see who gets to control the timeline. And these are two spies or employees of these time traveling armies of sort, and the two of them seem to be in contact with each other through letters that they leave in very odd places. However, they always seem to find it, and eventually, because they don't really seem to be communicating with anyone else, start to become friends and even fall in love with each other. So it sounds exciting. I hope that when I'm reading this, I don't just have like a big question mark over my head the entire time, but I have literally heard nothing but good things, and I'm excited that I picked a queer book for June. So thank you to my cup, my demon cup, or should I say my angel cup, and for choosing a short book as well, because this is one of the shortest books on the list as well. All right, guys, so we went through a ton of books, and like I said, on top of these, we also have my summer TBR and my 5-star predictions that I could be choosing from this month. So I will definitely not be reading all of these books, but I just wanted to make sure that I had a lot of books to select from, either for just my own reading pleasure or to benefit me and my team, which I believe is Milan, Team Milan, for the Wonderthon readathon as well. I would love to know if you guys have read any of the books mentioned in this video, and if you're taking part in the Wonderthon readathon. If so, which team are you on? Are you on the best team? Team Romance? Team Milan? Is Bailey Reading's team? And also, if you have any books that you are just so excited to read in the month of June as well. As always, guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!